Well, thank you again, everybody, for being here today and joining the webinar, Driving Towards Efficiency, Saving Money, and Reducing Pollution. My name is Cassie Carroll. I'm with the Smart Energy Design Assistance Center at the University of Illinois. And I'm here with Donald Bruce from the Cook County Department of Environment and Sustainability. So today we have a great lineup of speakers, but our goal for the meeting today is to highlight some opportunities for your auto body or repair shop to incorporate not only practices that increase health and safety of your workplace, but also reduce hazardous waste and pollution overall. So we'll go through today a lot of different high-level opportunities for different shops and things that they can do to be sustainable and reduce pollution. We'll also talk about some resources, but I'm also really glad to have Mike Turry as well from Turry's Auto Body to share his experience with some of these different sorts of best practices as well. So thank you, Mike, for being here again today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks,
So we'll just jump right in. I do want to talk a little bit about our organizations. I'm with the Smart Energy Design Assistance Center. Our goal is to reduce the energy footprint of Illinois, but we also run in partnership with the Illinois Green Business Association, the Illinois Green Business Program. And the Illinois Green Business Program is really a way to help businesses go green. We provide a benchmarking program to help identify some high impact opportunities for your company, as well as a certification program that we can help recognize businesses as Illinois green businesses, but really with a goal of reducing costs, increasing efficiency, connecting to available resources, and then giving you that recognition for those good things that you do. We partner with the BRIGHT program, which is Businesses Reducing Impact on the Environment. And I'll turn it over to Donald to talk a little bit about that program at Cook County.
Thank you, Cassie. Good afternoon, everybody. The BRIGHT program was established in 2022. It uses federal funding for COVID relief through the American Rescue Plan Act that was passed in 2022. And Cook County got about $10 million to use for pollution prevention activities. And it focuses on pollution prevention of 4 priority industries: dry cleaners, auto body and repair shops, which we'll be talking about today, metal finishers, and food and beverage manufacturers. And the program provides free assessments pretty much to any businesses in suburban Cook County in those 4 sectors. So if you're an auto body and repair shop in suburban Cook County, by all means, feel free to go to our website. You can do an expression of interest and you're eligible for the assessment. The grant opportunities we'll get into a little more. There's some additional requirements for grant funding recommendations, and we'll get into that later in the webinar. Next slide. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about the importance of pollution prevention. On the right, you'll see what we call the waste management hierarchy. I like to call it also the pollution prevention hierarchy. And pollution prevention is any practice that reduces, eliminates, or prevents pollution at the source before it is created. So you'll see at the top of that hierarchy, the upside down triangle, you've got source reduction and pollution prevention. For auto body shops, that would be something, we'll be talking about that, using waterborne or water-based paints in lieu of instead of solvent-based paints. You're basically reducing any kind of pollution at the actual source. The next priority would be to reuse things, reuse solvents or what have you, or recycling is the next priority. If you can recycle solvents and other materials. Then after that would be a treatment, of course, which is generally required from a regulatory standpoint. And also required from a regulatory standpoint would be any kind of disposal or release from your facility. So pollution prevention involves a variety of applications. It includes energy efficiency, elimination of toxics, reuse of input materials during production, and reduced water consumption. And pollution prevention reduces both financial costs, an example being waste management and cleanup costs, and environmental costs, which are both monetary, health problems, and environmental damage. Next slide.
And why are we focusing on pollution prevention? We're focusing on it because not only can it save or increase the health of our employees and our environment, but it can also reduce costs for organizations. So you can save money by wasting less. You're increasing that resource use efficiency and that operational efficiency in your shop. You can obviously reduce environmental impact and pollution, increase employee health and safety. And the cool thing is you can differentiate yourself in the market as a more sustainable shop. The EcoBiz program is an example of a program out on the West Coast, but they put this certified, we're a green business right on their website, and their slogan is pride and quality. So this is just a part of their mission and a part of their values of the company. So it can differentiate you as more and more of the public really wants to align how they spend money with their values around the environment and sustainability. You can also attract those customers and connect with more customers and employees who care about their community and their environment as well. So today we're going to talk about kind of two different sections. This is not everything under the sun around sustainability, but these are the best pollution prevention reducing tips and best practices. So we'll talk about energy efficiency first. We'll talk about reducing toxics. And then we'll talk about some other key things that you should know that can increase not only the environmental health, but the safety and reduce pollution at your shop. So when we talk about energy efficiency first here in automotive businesses, I wanted to look at like the breakdown. Where is energy used most in facilities? And most energy is used either from processes, so processes like different sorts of pumps and motors and compressors and those types of things. The other is lighting. Lighting is a huge portion of your resource use and your energy use in your organization. And then the other VOC control, that's controlling any vapors, especially if you're doing painting or sanding, you have ventilation around those things. So that is that VOC control, getting those toxins, particularly from paints and other sorts of coatings out of that space and keeping the air quality good in your space. And then the other 9% is HVAC. So they're your hanging unit heaters or your rooftop units that you have in your shop. So a lot of energy use for actually auto body shops is from those spray booths. Those spray booths can be high areas of energy use and really be a big draw on energy for your facility. And even just a spray booth used about over the course of one period of time, say you use it for about 8 hours a day. It's about driving 170 miles from downtown Chicago to Decatur. So it's a lot of energy being used in that spray booth. So for auto bodies particularly, spray booths are also a big part of that process use bucket as well. So thinking about these core areas of where you use energy is a good way to plan how to reduce energy in your energy use in your facility, or finding ways to be more efficient with how you use energy in your facility. So a couple of good things to look at. Air compressors is a key for energy efficiency. So looking and repairing and optimizing air leaks. Repair those air leaks. We've gone to some shops where there are a few air leaks. You can hear it hissing a little bit. You're paying to compress that air and you're just letting it go. So definitely repair those air leaks in your system. And you can even do a compressed air study to identify those leaks. And some of the utilities will actually pay for the study and help with incentives. So take advantage of that program. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. And we're happy to help get you connected. You can also look at reducing your compressed air usage by using the lowest pressure possible. So maybe you don't need to be at 120 PSI for your equipment. Maybe your equipment's only rated to 80 or 100 PSI. Over pressurizing doesn't really benefit your systems all the time. So using the lowest pressure possible is a good practice to reduce energy use and increase efficiency of your compressed air. Also, no lost condensate drains. are really a way to remove moisture from compressed air without losing any air. So instead of your compressor, your drain actually releasing a little bit of air, so say like, every 10 minutes, it compresses for 30 seconds. You don't need that with a no loss condensate drain. You're not going to lose any compressed air, but it'll still remove that moisture. So that's an easy tweak to your existing compressors that can save you energy as well. Also, installing variable frequency drives on pumps and motors wherever possible. Variable frequency drives are basically a drive that helps you modulate what energy is, or what speed the fan is being used at. So if you don't need it at 100% all the time and going, your motor or pump, you can dial it back to 30%. So it keeps it on a little bit, but it doesn't, when you don't need it in full capacity. So variable frequency drives are a great feature too for any pumps and motors. And of course, we saw on the last slide, lighting is a third of your energy use in your facility. So LED lighting, indoors, outdoors, in your shop, in your offices, definitely make sure that you pursue that. There are some great incentives available to help you pay for the cost of LED lighting, as well as motion sensors. So the neat thing is if you do have warehouse areas, there are lights that have motion sensors, or you can install motion sensors at the top. So as you walk through a shop, if you don't need that light, as you walk through it, it will turn on based on motion. So we highly recommend motion sensors as well when you're looking at installing and upgrading your lighting. Other best tips and tricks. This is a great example of ventilation. Only use ventilation when needed. Turn it off when it's not in use. So make sure that when you're done for the end of the day, or you're not sanding for part of the day, or using any sort of paint processes or spray booths, make sure that it is turned off or shut down at the end of the day. Another way to reduce ventilation, so ventilation sucks air out of the building, and then you need to make that air up with your heating and cooling, right, to recirculate air in the space. One way that you can eliminate ventilation is using this little gadget on the right here, which is a HEPA dust extractor for sanding tools. So you can actually have this HEPA filter. You don't need those ventilation tubes in your space. You don't need added ventilation. It just really takes that dust and puts the purified air back out into the environment. So it's a great opportunity to get these little carts. This is one little cart at a shop that had maybe 4 or 5, and you can easily pull these around to different stations. So it's a great way to reduce ventilation and also keep the air cleaner and healthier for everybody working in your shop. HVAC systems, again, that is on the lower end of energy use, but still an important one. Switching your heat pumps, or switching your rooftop units to heat pumps and also your water heaters to heat pumps is a great way to reduce energy use and electrify your building. So look at heat pumps. Even in Chicago, the cold climate heat pumps will still do well. They are rated for our Chicagoland weather. So switching to heat pump, HVAC units, and water heaters where applicable, especially technologies. Radiant heating, for example, or infrared heating is a great thing to look at to not only to make sure that by your dock doors or in different places that more of the hot air is getting down to staff. And high efficiency space heater units are something to look at. So you can replace your hanging space heaters with high efficiency space heater units, but infrared's kind of the next step. And that really helps direct the heat downward rather than having it go upward. Also, using fans to destratify air, especially in the winter time, heat rises. You want that heat to get down to the floor where your employees are or where you are. That increases comfort and efficiency as well. So, and there you can get bigger fans so it doesn't create a lot of wind too. So there's a lot of different options with fans to really help destratify that air and distribute your heating or cooling more efficiently in your building. using smart programmable thermostats. And I emphasize smart there because smart thermostats, you can actually use your phone or go online and see how you're using your heating and cooling and your temperature settings. Get the smart ones. They're easy to use. You can use them remotely, and they really control your heating and cooling better in your space. Making sure that you also, in the summertime, turn your AC up, or in the wintertime, turn your heating down. Setting those settings during off times can also really help reduce energy use in your facility. Another thing that's kind of neat, there are these efficient overhead garage door hinges that actually kind of push the door panels together to lock out the outside air from getting into your workspaces. So that is something to look at too. One of our NICOR energy efficiency program really promotes these as a way to reduce heating costs in the winter. So take a look at these overhead garage door hinges, and if you'd like any more information on options, just let us know. We'd be happy to help. Also consider electrification of equipment. I mentioned hot water heaters for restroom and hand washing, but it's a great place to save energy and electrify your facility a little bit. And finally, when we talk about energy use, auto body and repair shops are great places for solar. And in Illinois, particularly, we have a great climate for solar. Not only can businesses take advantage of a 30% federal tax credit, but you can get an Illinois SREC payment, solar renewable energy credit, that will pay for 30 to 40% of the project cost. And then businesses can take the maker's depreciation tax credit for another 5 to 10% off the project. So it's really advantageous to explore whether solar is a good fit for your business. It could cover part of your energy use. It could cover 75%. Any little bit may be a big difference on your operating costs over time. So here's some utility resources. Again, we will send out these slides afterwards. I know we're going through a lot today, so as we talk about ideas, and we have links here, you can access these after the presentation is done, and because this is neat, you can actually, ComEd, you can actually estimate your solar system for your specific property. So we'll get that to you, but solar energy is a great way to produce clean, green electricity for your shop. So that's a lot, the key things with energy efficiency that we focus on with auto body and repair shops. But now I'm going to toss it over to Donald to talk about some key ways that shops can reduce toxics.
Okay. We like to look at energy, toxics, and water use generally when we assess facilities. And I'll be talking a little bit about reducing toxics. And one of the best ways we can do that is by transitioning from solvent-based to water-based paints. Next slide. And a little background on spray booths and VOCs. Volatile organic chemicals, usually solvents are volatile. That means they basically go from liquid to the gaseous nature. And you can see in the diagram on the left where they end up. They end up in the air, they end up in the water. They come from paints, gasoline, plastics, fumigants. So there's all kinds of different sources of VOCs in the environment. And auto body and repair shops are just one of them. But the one way that we can really control that at an auto body and repair shop is from having the appropriate spray booth. And spray booths are one of the more essential pieces of equipment for most auto body and repair shops, but are also one of the most energy and resource intensive. And from energy use to paint application to dry time, efficient and effective spray booths are essential to the success and health of an auto body and repair shop. And the costs associated with spray booths. Energy is the largest source of pollution, greenhouse gases, generally associated with energy use from spray booths, from usage of the spray equipment to the lighting and the drying process, particularly even with water-based paints. You have to have a particularly good drying process to dry them out. Toxics reduction is very important, from volatile organic chemical emissions. It's also an opportunity for pollution prevention. And with a more efficient spray booth, either through switching to water-based paints and spray or even just more efficiently applying solvent-based paints, you can greatly cut down on those VOC emissions. And staff time can be saved also with more efficient spray booths through a faster application and drying process. And of course, reduced staff time results in cost savings as well, more efficiency. Okay, VOC concentration. It's from water-based paints. We'll talk about that a little bit. And in a water-based paint, the VOC concentration is commonly, in solvent-based paints or any VOC concentration is 10 times higher indoors than outdoors. You have an enclosed environment, so it really is a lot higher inside. And that's due to, in general, to household products, including paints. And the health effects from VOCs are wide-ranging. It can be eye irritation and headaches, all the way to liver and kidney damages, and even causes of cancer, as you can see on the left. Okay, water-based paints are a huge solution. They do not have VOCs for the most part, and they also work in a more efficient spray booths, and it can greatly limit the risk and exposure to VOC emissions indoors, which is real help for your workers, and even I'm sure your customers like to come in once in a while. And using water-based paints requires different application strategies. And even though the cost per ounce of a water-based paint may be more than a solvent-based paint, there's less coating required for water-based paints, and that can actually make them more cost-effective because you need basically less paint to coat the object. Next slide, please. Water-based paints do require a certain amount of training. It's important to train your employees on how to use them, and consider conducting spray training to help employees waste less paint. So on-hand training, and I think they have some virtual training now available to teach employees the most efficient and best way to spray. And there's certain resources we listed there. Motor Trend, we're all familiar with that. Working with water-based paint is easy if you follow the guidelines. The California Auto Body Association has some recommendations as well. And another organization, the Cynic Academy, Advantages of Waterborne Car Paint, and 5 application tips. So again, this is recorded. The slides will be distributed. You can look further at those references. Okay, now we're going to talk about reducing toxic use, and specifically talking about brake and parts cleaners. Many repair shops use aerosol and non-aerosol solvent-based cleaners because they are effective. They're good at cleaning metal. Because many of them have known environmental and health effects, though, some might be treated as hazardous waste. So that's going to be a problem. And so you're going to have to dispose of it as a hazardous waste. And overexposure of these solvent-based cleaners can affect the nervous system, cause nausea, dizziness, and drowsiness. And it can also have serious long-term effects. To confirm whether your shop uses solvents, you can always check the material safety data sheets and section 2 on the chemical abstract service. So you can look at the product name, and it'll tell you specifically what solvents and VOCs are constituents of that product. Okay, brake cleaners. Safer alternatives for auto repair shops. Aerosol brake cleaners, engine degreasers, and fuel injectors. Some benefits, better alternatives are aqueous soy-based cleaners. Those are our preferred safer alternatives. We've listed some of them there, some product names. And we're not necessarily recommending them completely, so we've got a few of them, but they are suggestions. And later this is from the Pollution Prevention Resource Center, which you can actually go to, and they'll give you these recommendations as well. Other common solvents you can use with caution are acetone and heptane, and they're used to clean metal parts and are good particularly acetone for dissolving other substances such as paint, markers, or glues. Next slide. All right, then you have extreme caution. You have the common petroleum hydrocarbons. You got to be very careful of these products. Mineral spirits, toluene, xylene, ethylbenzene, and then you want to pretty much completely avoid the common chlorinated solvents, trichloroethylene, TCE, and methylene chloride. Very difficult to work with. Really want to try to avoid that. It's just going to cost you a lot of money, and it's just a lot of concerns involved with those chlorinated solvents.
Great. Thanks, Donald.
Okay.
I'll talk a little bit about parts washers here. Parts washers is also a really great way to reduce toxics. They use solvent cleaners as well, and it's usually one of the facilities' larger source of hazardous waste. So they basically it's because they can contain used oil. That is another disposal cost. So there's a lot of different ways to actually switch to aqueous-based cleaners to eliminate the solvent completely. And basically, it's a viable alternative to mineral spirits. So it's like kind of like if you think about a large dishwasher. So it has a detergent, heat, and mechanical energy to clean parts. This leads to lowers hazardous waste generation and management costs. It reduces vapors and aerosol mists that come from parts washers. And that reduces harm to employee health because some of them are, as you can see on the left, sort of cleaning stations. They have equal to better cleaning performance and eliminate fire hazards. And then that last line on the bottom there that got cut off is a longer solution life. So I just want to give you this, and you'll get this later. This is another resource from the Pacific Northwest Pollution Prevention Resource Center. I'll put the link in the chat as well. But there's different types of part washers, and I've put them from cheapest to maybe more high upfront cost. And so you can start with something like a sink on drum, and it really is the most commonly used type of system. It's a sink with a brush on a drum with a water-based cleaner, and it's heated. It's good for light duty cleaning. It's low cost, and there's not really a lot of toxic vapors, but it can be difficult for heavier stubborn soils. An enzyme cleaning system is kind of like a modified sink on drum that uses microbes to biodegrade oil. It's a little bit more maintenance because you have to maintain those microbes, but it can perform similarly to a sink on drum. Immersion parts washer is also another option. It's a sink with a false bottom to soak parts in a reservoir. And usually it's a good thing because you can do brushing for detailing, and it has an oil skimmer in it as well. It's more expensive than a sink on drum or the first two options, but it reduces scrubbing time and labor costs than the other two. Now we're starting to get a little bit more sophisticated with spray cabinets and ultrasonic systems, but if you have large parts that you're washing, spray cabinet might be something that you'd be interested in. It's basically a high pressurized cabinet that you put the parts in, they get washed, and it's higher heat, automated. So you actually save staff time and labor, and it cleans really well for heavily soiled parts. But there is a little bit of high startup use or high startup costs, and then you do use a little bit more energy. The kind of Cadillac is the ultrasonic system. But it's a good for creating bubbles to clean areas that have crevices or holes. So things like transmissions and carburetors, if you're cleaning those sorts of things, an ultrasonic system might be good for you. But it is a high initial startup cost. So there's lots of different parts washers out there that are aqueous that you can use. And again, it just eliminates that use of solvent. Now, some good management tips. If you cannot go to an aqueous system and transition your parts washing to fully aqueous, use at least the least hazardous cleaning solution in your parts washer. So check the SDS sheets and speak with your supplier about different options. They may be able to provide you a sample product so you can test how it works in your parts washer before you fully implement a new solvent. Maximize solutions life. So really drain parts thoroughly and clean solutions only when it's needed. And then also a lot of the safety cleans or types of parts washers also have solvent recycling systems. So ask your supplier about those too. So if you don't go aqueous, these are some good things to keep in mind with your solvent and parts washers at your organization. Also, some other sustainability tips, using high pressure, low volume spray nozzles for water hoses when you're cleaning cars and washing cars. Making sure, I've seen a lot of hoses with no sort of sprayer on it. These high pressure, low volume spray nozzles really help reduce water use and use water more efficiently. Also, making sure that you have secondary containment under all oil and fluid drums, whether they be in your shop or outside your shop. Make sure that they have secondary containment. These are a couple of different examples of secondary containment. I've heard of some other shops actually draining and recycling plastic oil containers. If you use plastic oil containers, sometimes if you drain them fully, your recyclers will take them. Also, just recycle all metals, cardboards, and you can even recycle gloves. If you use Kimberly-Clark's gloves, they actually have a recycling program for those gloves. Some shops even use something called TerraCycle to recycle gloves. So there are a lot of different waste opportunities, waste reduction opportunities that we haven't talked about today, but and if you have any questions about those, happy to talk about it. But these are all good things to keep in mind for your shop as well. Now I'd like to pass it back over to Donald so we're kind of through the good tips and tricks. Now let's hear how Auto Body Shop has actually implemented some of these great things that we've talked about today. So Donald, would you introduce our guest speaker first?
Absolutely, I'd be happy to. Yeah, Cassie. As Cassie said, we can look at things on paper and maybe from our organizations, we go to these body shops, but there's nothing hearing firsthand from the actual owners and employees and people that work in the shop day to day, and just very rewarding hearing what they're doing in relation to sustainability and pollution prevention accomplishments. And with that, I'd like to turn things over to Mike Turry with Turry's Auto Body. It's a quality collision repair shop. They've been in operation in 1989 in Bellwood, Illinois, and they've got all kinds of great things going on with waterborne paints and electric vehicle charging and all that good stuff. So, Mike, if you want to take it from here, we appreciate your showing up today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to come and talk to you guys to talk about a little bit about what we have been doing since 1989. I would say that our primary focus is quality collision repair, servicing the customer and reinvesting back into the collision industry so that the industry and the business continues to thrive and we continue to move forward into the future. A lot of the things that you kind of talked about today, we've implemented over the years since 1989. I know going back, the collision repair has been in my family for quite some time. My great grandfather, my great grandfather, father, and myself have all been a part of this industry and this trade. So one thing I will note is in Europe has always been 10 to 20 years ahead of the United States in terms of EPA regulations, making sure that they have the right standards, regulations, equipment for pollution prevention, and also health and safety standards. And back in the early 2000s, there was a paint line that one of our technicians was using called Standox. And Standox is a European-based, originating from Europe, and they had come out with a brand new, what's called waterborne paint line. And the paint rep was really pushing it, and you know what? We felt that it was a great idea to go ahead and start this push. And we were one of the first shops in the Chicagoland area going back to the early 2000s. As time went on, the paint lines kind of shifted. We eventually went with PPG, which ended up buying another waterborne based paint out of Italy called the Nexa line, and that's what we utilize today. It's actually very cost effective. It costs a lot less than solvent paints, just because we're not using as much of it. The way that it is being used, there's a computerized system that allows the paint to be formulated to match color spec, as if the car was to come out of the factory. factory floor. So matching has been nothing but perfect. Has been really great with the waterborne based paint. Not to mention it's really great for the employees and the future of the industry, so that, you know, the collision industry has had a negative stigma or connotation as it relates to health and safety standards. And I can say that with my great grandfather and grandfather, and the way that they ran their collision practice and out in Europe, probably not wearing much masks or anything like that. But now, you know, we want to continue to promote this industry and allow for more technicians to get into the space, younger talent to come in, and it's really a viable career, something that you can do for the long haul, and ultimately take care of the community around you in the meantime. And to touch upon a couple other things, I know you guys brought up the compressors. One of the things that we have done at Turi's Auto Body is we've switched over from hydraulic or piston-based compressors to rotary screw. Rotary screw is a type of compressor that uses a lot less energy, actually gives out way more output, allowing the use less energy. We've implemented those sander, they kind of look like robots, but they're vacuum sanders, and that's really great for the shop. It keeps the shop really clean, and the air pollution, you just don't get the dust like you would have if people are just sanding away at the metals and the bondos during the day, and all that goes into the air and everyone's breathing that. So those vacuum sanders are really phenomenal. You know, definitely something I promote. You know, technicians are not always, how can I say, they're not always wanting to use them, but eventually they get used to it. And, you know, that's something that they eventually appreciate too, because, you know, they're like, you know, it's nice to come to work and not be covered in dust and things like that. So, you know, those are some things that we've been doing. Some other tips I would give is on the air compressor. We actually use a air testing facility out in Texas to air test our lines, so that when using the air compressor with some of our air masks, you know, our employees are breathing the air that's coming through those lines. So we get our lines tested for health reasons every year to make sure. And actually, it's been really beneficial, because some of those tests in the beginning came back and said that the compressor was actually too close to one of the repair bays. And if you have a car that's on, the exhaust fumes were going into the compressor, and then the compressor air was going into the lines, which is then going to, you know, it's going into the mass of the people, you know, and employees who are putting those on. So definitely some benefit there. And, you know, some of the other things I would bring up is the gun washer equipment and recycling. It's definitely key. And I would go to another sector I know we haven't touched upon, is the welding. Welding in the auto body space or the collision space, using what's called a paper system, usually like Miller or you know, your Lincoln, they'll have those systems. And what it is, it's basically a welding mask with a tube behind it, and there's actually a filter. Really great. I recommend all your technicians to use those when they're welding, just because the fumes that are, you know, extrapolated from those welding components is definitely not healthy for anyone. So improve upon your energy, your pollution, your health and safety standards in your shop, and you're definitely reinvesting into the business, and you're reinvesting into the collision industry for the future.
Great. Thanks a lot, Mike. Yeah, it's really a win-win for everybody. For the customers appreciate it. Yeah, it's good marketing. People want to see green in everything, all their products now, and it's good for business. You can save money. It's good for the health of the employees. You save time, and it's good for the environment. So appreciate everything that you're doing at Turi's Auto Body, and thanks for sharing that. Will you be around, Mike, for a few more minutes for questions at the end?
Yeah, sure.
Great.
Sure, no problem.
All right.
Anybody have any questions right now?
For Mike? Okay.
Yeah, for Mike.
Sure.
Let me see if there's any in the chat or in our Q&A box.
Yeah, I would bring up one other point about the waterborne paints.
Sure.
So one thing I would bring up is definitely talk to your paint representatives. Whether you're working with PPG, Exalta, Standox, talk to your representatives. Let them know that this is what you want to do. A lot of times they'll give you demonstrations and product to use for free to let your paint technician to get used to that. That's always the biggest hurdle, is having your paint technician kind of be like, get comfortable. They're not willing to make that switch because they don't want their performance to suffer, because ultimately that's what they're most rated on. But talk to your paint representative. That's what we did in the beginning. They're willing to work with you, and they'll get out there and give you a demonstration. They'll give you product. If you need training, they will be there to help support you.
Great. Excellent.
Great. Thank you for bringing up so many good tips and tricks for folks that we didn't mention too, from your years of experience in the business.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime I could help.
Awesome.
Thanks, Mike.
Well, I don't see any questions right now, but thanks, Mike, for hanging on in case we get any. So we'll move on to our last segment here, and just talk about some different support and funding opportunities for auto body and repair shops. So Donald, do you want to talk about the Bright program?
Absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, any business in suburban Cook County is eligible for a free Bright assessment. That's dry cleaning facilities, auto body and repair shop, metal finisher, and food and beverage manufacturers. To be considered for the grant from the ARPA money, because it was COVID relief, the business must meet the above requirements as well. First of all, they should have a completed Bright assessment and recommendations in the report that follows from the assessment. They must be what we call a small business in respect to that. They have less than, no more than 500 full-time employees, and they must have been in operation prior to January 1st, 2020. In other words, they were in operation when the actual COVID pandemic disaster started. And they must have experienced negative economic impacts due to the COVID-19 pandemic, demonstrated by proof of revenue loss and a lot of other factors too. Supply chain issues, lost time due to employee sickness, etc. Once they do the assessment, they do the report, you apply for a grant. After a grant award, you'd be required to attend 3 sustainability trainings covering general grant administration, industry-specific pollution prevention practices, and general sustainability. The training that you're seeing today counts for the industry-specific pollution prevention practices. And we are at the Cook County Bright program pretty much combining the general grant administration and general sustainability trainings into 1-hour session as well. With the assessment, the report, and the grant award, businesses can receive, there's a maximum cap of $300,000 total for the different recommendations. And this would include 100% funding for a top pollution preventing project, like a very top line project that reduces the most toxics or saves the most energy, could be eligible for up to 100% funding. The other recommendations generally would be eligible for up to 50% cost share. And then if it's a fossil fuel-based recommendation, we're looking at up to around a 25% cost share, just to encourage electrification wherever possible. And if you'd like to apply for an assessment or grant, as I mentioned, you've got our website there. Just go to www.cookcountyillinois.gov/bright, and it'll tell you all about the program. And there's a link both to express interest in an assessment. And once your assessment and report is done, there's another link to actually apply for the grant funding. Okay. Other technical assistance programs, you've got the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District. They pretty much cover the entire Chicagoland area. all of Cook County and parts of the other counties. And you can actually schedule assessments. They'll have one of their staff come out and they'll evaluate your water use. The Energy Resources Center at the University of Illinois at Chicago, and that's for Chicago-based businesses. UIC offers similar, very similar to Bright. It excludes internal funding opportunities, but it does do the assessment part, and that's through UIC. And you have the Illinois Environmental Assistance Program. It has a whole host of resources for small businesses, in particular, auto repair, body and spray coating businesses. And if you go to that link, you'll find about 10 more links that'll tell you pretty much everything you'd want to know as far as any regulatory requirements for your business. Assistance, I think Bright is mentioned in there as well, and things of that nature. Very good resource put out by the state. EPA Energy Star is very helpful with energy benchmarking. Just go to the EPA website, EPA Energy Star, and you can benchmark your facility and actually get metrics on how much energy you're saving over time. And they actually offer certification for efficient automotive dealerships. And then there's the Illinois Sustainable Technology Center, and that also offers assessments for manufacturing facilities across Illinois. Cassie?
And last but not least, the Illinois Green Business Program and CDAC can provide assessments for any business outside of the Chicagoland area and in partnership with Bright. And we can also provide recognition for your business. So it's pretty easy. If you want to, we can assess opportunities, help you take action and provide some technical support, and then help you get recognized as an Illinois Green business. So if you're interested in getting recognized and promoted for all of your great work, please reach out to us for help. And again, we partner with the Bright program, so any Bright participant can also achieve Illinois Green Business recognition as well. As we mentioned, there are so many different funding opportunities out there. ComEd, Ameren, Illinois, even if you're under a municipal electric agency, there's incentives available for things like LED lighting, HVAC changes, ventilation, all sorts of things. Basically, anything that touches energy use that you're improving in your facility, there is an incentive for that. So take advantage of those through your electric and gas utilities. And if you need help navigating those and what would qualify, Donald and I are happy to help anybody navigate those incentives, because there is a lot of information out there, but you as a business pay into those incentive programs every time you pay your utility bill. So get some of that money out and back in your hands and take advantage of those incentive and programs that are available. Also, if you're thinking about getting an electric vehicle for your business, you can get a federal clean energy credit, or ComEd customers also are able to get incentives as well. So on top of the federal clean vehicle credit, which is up to $40,000, either 15% of your basis in the vehicle or 30% if your vehicle is not powered by gas or diesel, you can get that credit. And on top of that, if you're, say, getting a sedan to do business trips, you can get $500 to $7,500 off the project from ComEd. So take advantage of those incentives. Many auto body and repair shops are also looking into EV charging for their shops. There's a federal tax credit. There is a charging incentive program from Illinois EPA, which is more public charging than it is for behind the scenes charging. But then ComEd also offers, and Ameren, Illinois also offer incentives as well. So the federal tax credit is up to 30% of the cost to purchase and install charging stations. So take advantage of that. The Illinois EPA program, again, is more public-facing charging, but can cover up to 80% of the costs. And then ComEd customers, if you install a level 2 charger in your shop, you can get $5,300 to $8,000 per port installed. Ameren, Illinois doesn't offer charging incentives, but they offer a rate plan to reduce charging costs overall. So there's a lot of funding out there. There's a lot of support out there for all of these initiatives. You are not alone in your journey on pollution prevention. And I just advise folks to start somewhere. Start with maybe one of your more resource intensive processes. Ask your employees maybe about different ways to improve usage or reduce usage. And just focus on a few things at a time, and slowly, like Mike Terry said, it'll snowball over time in your organization. So if you need any support or help, please reach out to us at CDAC or Donald at the Bright program, and we are happy to help you to navigate energy efficiency, pollution prevention at your facility. So I think that closes us out for the day. Let's see, do we have any questions? Last call for questions from anybody in our audience today.
No questions while we're waiting, Cassie. Just a quick note on ComEd and the NICOR incentives. Generally, with the Bright program, we will have them come out as part of our Bright assessment as well. And we try as much as possible, any recommendations that they make and incentives that they would provide would be in our Bright assessment report as well. But it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be part of the Bright program to take advantage of those utility incentives.
Exactly. Thanks, Donald. And I guess I'm not seeing any hot questions coming through. So I'll wrap us up for the day. Thank you very much, Mike, for joining us today and talking about Terry's Auto Body. Thank you, Donald, for all of your knowledge and sharing all of your information and about the Bright program. And again, please reach out to us if you have any questions or need support. We're here to help. I hope you all have a great afternoon, and we hope to talk to you again soon. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks, Cassie. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Take care, everybody. Have a great afternoon.